Hello and welcome back to Football Kentron, the only English language podcast dedicated to Armenian football. It has been a long time, friends. I am your host, Adam, and I am joined here by the usual suspects, Armen and Charents. How are you boys doing?
Good.
Missing everyone. Missing you guys especially. I know everyone missed me, and missing the audience too. We love you, and you love me.
As always, we have a packed episode and a very special episode where we will be covering everything in Armenian football this time because we have been out for a little while. And we are also going to be joined by some Irish national team accounts. Well, one is a general Irish football account. The other one is a Nations League Irish specific account for a little Q&A session on our friendly rivals from the UEFA Nations League. That will be at the tail end of the episode. But first, let us start with the Armenian Premier League. We are at the tail end of the season of the Armenian Premier League, where Ararat Armenia had dominated a majority of the league and then suddenly can't do anything right. And Pyunik have been in superb form and are now currently first in the table. Gentlemen, Pyunik Ararat Armenia. It has been a crazy roller coaster, and it's coming down to the last game of the season. Pyunik take on Alashkert next Sunday, and if Pyunik win, they're champions. If Pyunik don't win, Ararat Armenia have two chances. They have a game against Urartu that they have to get 3 points, and then a Ararat derby match to end off the season where they could potentially clinch the title if Pyunik fail. Both of these sides have shown cold feet when it's time to have that killer instinct to win. What do you guys think is going to happen, Armen? Who's going to win the league?
I have no idea by now, and that's the beautiful thing about the APL. It's so weird that it can, like, anything can happen, and it's gonna be interesting because I attribute FCAA's dip in form to this is gonna sound a little ethnocentrist, but I attribute it to not playing as many Armenians as they used to when they started dominating the league. They started benching, like their coach Dimitri Gunko started benching their captain Armen Abatsumian, and of course when you bench an Armen, you know what's gonna happen. You're gonna start losing. And
Lol.
seriously though, I mean, you don't bench your captain. That's stupid to me. And now he's playing again. He's starting again, and they're back in winning ways. Is it gonna be too late though? I don't know.
Now, Chadens, the winner of this match, or the winner of the league, gets the only Champions League spot that Armenia has. In your eyes, who do you think has the better chance of making it to a European group stage? Because, as we've talked about before, if you start in the Champions League first round, you have a much better chance of getting to a European group stage because you drop down in competitions.
Yeah.
So who do you think has that better chance right now? From what you're gathering, is it Pyunik or Ararat Armenia?
Tough question. My mind set on Ararat Armenia. Correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't they the last ones to be in Europe? I mean, before Pyunik, weren't they?
Yeah, they were the ones that got the closest twice. They lost in the playoffs 2 years straight. And then
with a 1-0 score, I think, right?
Yeah. And then our best friends Alashkert made it to the group stages of the Conference League. But I think I see what you mean, because in the first half of the season, Ararat were like playing like sick football. Like there's no other way to put
great
it.
Football. They have that's one of the key components in qualifying.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an open debate. I don't know what you guys think. It's an open debate because Europe is a different material.
Animal.
Yeah.
It's a different.
Armenia has that different
Yeah, but they haven't been using it. They haven't been using Karim Muradyan for defense.
Well,
They
it's up to
haven't been
them then.
using.
That's the thing. It's up to them then.
I don't
Another
know
thing
if
we
that's a
pointed
good
out,
thing.
ever since Derderian got dropped from right back and
That
Alamau came back,
I was gonna
they
get to that.
they've been awful.
I was
That's
gonna
another
get to that.
component.
They lost their muscle, which is their Derian. They lost their defensive heart, which is Karim Murad. Not lost. They started to bench them. They
Yeah.
started to bench Karim Muradian, which is the defensive heart, and I'm all about defense. And Karim Muradian is very important, not just for them, but for the national team as well. He's been dropped from the national team too for some unknown reason we're gonna get into later on. They started to bench Armin Abartumin, as I said, which is the player that not just the captain of the team. He pulls the strings for the whole offensive game of the team. And then, well, they're getting what, as you say, you play stupid games.
Win stupid prizes. Absolutely.
Exactly. So,
in terms of European spots right now, the loser in terms of not winning the championship is going to take one of the two Conference League spots. The other Conference League spot is currently being occupied by Ararat Yerevan on 46 points, who are only 1 point ahead of Alashkert on 45.
And then we have a fourth spot. Do we have a fourth spot for you?
We do have a fourth spot.
So far, yeah.
Noravank.
Yes, it's Noravank because of something that we will get into right after this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went too fast.
But that's actually a question mark for now.
Yeah, and we'll
gonna get into that later.
But now we have a Pyunik who needs to win their last match, and that happens to be against Alashkert, who need to win that match if they want to be in Europe. So it's going to be a crazy dynamic, and I think next weekend.
Yeah, they both need to win.
Yeah, they both have to win.
It's a top four game. A game between two top four placed teams, and they both need to win for their ambitions. Everything to play for.
It's going to be great. So, couple games left for most teams except for Pyunik. The rest of the table is looking a little bit like this. You have FC Noah in 5th place on 37, Urartu in 6th place with 35 points, Noravank with 23 points in 7th, Van in 8th with 19, Bekma in last place with 15. We're yet to know if Bekma is actually going to be relegated. I guess the FFA will just provide a little clarity on that when we get there. Speaking of European spots, the VBET Armenian Cup final happened last week, where Noravank had a shock 2-0 win over Urartu, who are friends that we were really, really hoping would get into European football. But Noravank played a very good, solid utilitarian style football. They bunkered down, they played physical, they stopped a lot of Urartu's momentum, and they scored 2 goals on counterattacks, and they won the game. I think it can be said that Urartu were extremely unlucky to not score. I think they hit the post twice. They created so many chances, but I think what has been Urartu's problem all along, which is goal scoring, or that final ball, whether that's a shot or a pass, came back to bite them. And
it's what we were saying a few episodes ago, that they're very conceding and scoring. It's very balanced. There will definitely be an issue there, and it came to that at the end.
Actually, I would argue that their goals haven't been all that bad. Like their goal difference is not bad. Their goals scored isn't bad. Like their stats are good. The thing is, they create a lot of chances which they don't capitalize, but still their goal count is not bad. They were just unlucky, as you said. They hit the post twice, 3 at least. I counted 3 amazing saves by Noravank goalkeeper Henry Avakian, who is a Caparros man. Caparros is going to be very happy about that performance. And expect to see newly crowned Armenian Cup champion Henry Avakian called up.
For sure.
Second or third string goalie for us. standout performance, like props were credit where credit's due, props to him. I think Noravank was a fair winner, but because of how they played. They played very professional football, but not the better football. Like Urartu played better. They just were unlucky to not win the cup.
Yeah, and Noravank, because they have won the cup, took the final spot for the UEFA Europa Conference League, which, due to the Russian Federation not being involved in European competition next season, places them in the second round of Conference League qualifiers, while the other two league spots actually place you in the first round. So, a little interesting tidbit there. However, there is a caveat, as Noravank are apparently not I would say registered for European competition or licensed for European competition with UEFA yet. And if they don't obtain their licensing, it goes to the fourth place spot actually.
Yes, yes, sir. The license is pending, so we will keep everyone updated as soon as there's a definite ruling on Noravank.
Yeah, and go ahead, Jonathan.
It's gonna get confusing.
Yeah, because if that does happen, does that mean fourth place goes into the second round of European qualifying, or does second place go to the second round? Because that wouldn't make sense to reward fourth place, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I mean, logically, if Noravank doesn't get the rule in their favor, logically the second place APL would go to the better round.
That would make more sense, yeah. And for us, I mean, not saying anything about Noravank, but I think Ararat Armenia would benefit a lot more from going in the second round, or Pyunik, whichever one it is.
It would be deserved, and it would be logical. I guess it will depend on how the ruling goes.
Yeah. Well, now moving on from our domestic football into the news. Armen, we have been in a emergency room lately. A lot of players are injured. Lots of things going on. Give us an update on national team captain Varazat Haroyan.
Yeah, I mean, during a week and times like these that we after turbulent times for the national team, this week is actually a welcome change because there's been great news all around, which we're gonna get into later on. But first, the bad news, as life, everything is always good when you start off with the bad and top it off with the good stuff. Well, we have national team captain Varazat Haroyan recovering from an injury which he sustained during the national team game against Norway, which we know the final score. Not gonna get into that one. No need. But luckily, he's back in training. It's possible that he's gonna miss the first game of the national team because he has not featured once on any team sheet yet since returning to training for Cadiz. Still a couple of weeks left for him to get into full fitness, maybe get a game or two for Cadiz and the club before joining the national team camp. We are gonna be pending on that one, but he's gonna be called and featured in at least 2 or 3 games for us. The problem, however, is not Varazat Haroyan, it's his center back partner in crime, Andre Çalışır, who is still injured after picking up an injury during national team training before Montenegro on that same window. Talk about bad luck. It's really, really worrisome to me. That's not that we have no news on him. I don't know what you guys think about Andre, but I think it's a very sensible loss for us.
Yeah, I think. I mean, considering we have 4 games, we need 4 center backs that can play. And Haroyan just got back into team training, which he still has over 2 weeks, so that's fine. I think if he's at least in team training this coming week, I think we're golden. He'll be more than fit. If he's
he'll
not,
make it logically, no?
yeah, I think he will. I don't see him not making it unless he just like, re-aggravates it.
No,
worst case.
I don't know. There's literally no news on him.
Remains to be seen. I think I'm hopeful to see if he's not there for some reason. I would hope we see either Kartasyan or Musakhanyan, because both definitely deserve to be in the squad. I think.
Stiopa.
Stiopa logically, no?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, we need. I agree that we would love to see both Musakhanyan and Kartasyan as well, but a welcome guarantee has been Stiopa last window. But again, that's not our main problem.
We need multiple center backs.
Definitely. We need like the more the better.
Yeah.
But center back hasn't actually been our biggest problem, in my opinion.
Defensive midfielder is definitely the biggest problem. But we'll get into that whenever the squad gets released, and we'll discuss that in our next episode. Moving on to our notable players abroad, we've had a lot of players getting consistent game time. Charens, who's been playing what and where?
Yeah, I'm happy to announce with the first one, Sarkis Adamyan is a champion in Belgium, Club Bruges. He's not the only Armenian as well in there, but as a player, he's the only one. He started the game today. No, sorry, yesterday as of this recording. Or no, was it today? I'm so confused. Was it? I think it was yesterday. Well,
we are talking only a couple of hours after Sako scored, not the winner, but one of the goals that crowned Bruges, which is huge. I mean, that's
well, yeah. As a lone player as well, he comes and
we don't have that many players getting silverware in top 15 leagues.
Oh, there we go. It was today. What am I on about? Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge.
He started as well the game. Now, whether he stays or not, we'll see. But logically, very possibly as well, he is staying. So hopefully they'll activate the buyout clause with him. The next one, Babayan. We were just talking about him before. He's about to end his contract with, sorry for my pronunciation, Vejle in Denmark. We'll see where he goes. Vele. Well, okay. He keeps moving. He keeps moving to different clubs. He's gonna end his contract there, but he's been playing a bit. Next one is Barserian.
Also champion.
Yeah, he's also he was announced the first one, right, from all the players. He got a brace this weekend after some red cards and such. Next is Vahan Bichakcan at Pogon. He has not. It's kind of inconsistent with him, not too much. Somewhat playing, somewhat not playing. Their recent scores when they played, it was yesterday. It was 0-0 against Lechia Gdansk, and now they're third. When Vaha moved, they were first, I believe. First or second. So
yeah, he's been starting a game, starting bench.
Yeah.
That's been the pattern. It's a little weird, but he's getting minutes. That's the important part.
Yeah. As long as he's playing. Han Partsumyan, undoubtedly the most consistent player, and as of this week, he was announced in the team of the season of the Cypriot division as the best right back in Cyprus. Next is Khoren Bayramyan at Rostov, Russia. Obviously, he's been playing more centrally, sometimes on the left side as well. Then we've got
just left side. He's a wide player. Like
Yeah,
But
let's go
he's
with
been
that.
playing centrally also lately.
Yeah, yeah.
For real?
Yeah.
Yeah,
really.
I've realized this pattern. They've been playing central, which is kind of
Yonikos, hey, Yonikos is winning. We're gonna get into that. We're
nice
gonna get
timing.
into that.
Nice timing. And next up, what do we have? Kama Hovanesyan. Oh, at Astana, Kazakhstan.
Ugh.
One of our favorite countries. Ugh.
No, I don't have a problem with Kazakhstan.
I have a
mean,
problem with the fact that all of our players just decide to go play there. That's what I have a problem with.
Then we've got Avedisyan. This one, again, Kazakhstan. Next, we have Ayrabetyan, again, Kazakhstan. The good one we've got is a future star, Arman Hovanesyan in Moldova. He's been playing. Did he score 2 games ago, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, he's been scoring here and there, and I think Zimbru is not doing so hot on the table, but he's showed his quality, and I think it's good enough quality for maybe a better team in Moldova to sign him. Hopefully, crossing our fingers, Sheriff, that would be cool, but probably not. And then speaking of future stars, Daron Iskandarian actually had an assist last night for Las Vegas Lights FC. So lots of good. How many players was that, Chadins, that we just talked about? Like a lot of players. Just keep playing good games, and that's good because we have a consistency issue a lot. Speaking of consistency, there are some players that are picking up some form. We're talking, of course, about David Nalbandian, bet you didn't see that one coming, who also plays in Zimbru with Armen Hovanesyan. And then Armen's BFF, favorite person of all time, Vasilios Pogosyan, who just had his first start for Lonikos in Greece, who are top of the relegation group, which sets them at about mid-table. And then players that are on the bench very much patiently waiting for their turn include our homeboy Felix Ferayan, which we're puzzled as to why he hasn't started yet because Beto has been awful, giving balls away for goals like 3 games in a row now, and then also
we have a little bit of inside info from Finnish homies of ours.
Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
Apparently, Hoyevko, as they call the team, is like very keen on playing Beto simply because of the name, for the namesake, for marketing reasons.
Not too surprised.
Yeah, and I think
I am.
I think as we had divulged in our group chat, maybe not specifically on the podcast, but the goalkeeping coach is actually Portuguese. So
yeah, but I don't think that's it. Could be, but honestly, I think it's I have to trust our Finnish homies because it does make sense.
Yeah. Crazy. A lot going on. Lots of players everywhere as we build up to the UEFA Nations League that is kicking off next month. Speaking of kicking off, a lot of Armenian players are hopefully going to be kicking off European competition next season. Starting this one off, Chadens, who was the first Armenian to qualify for Europe this season?
The first one was Gorman Velian. Because Nantes won the French Cup, so that gives them access to next season's Europa League group stages. Very big stage because of now the Conference League. Europa League has more value. He didn't play in the final. He was part of the squad that traveled to Paris. And since he did play on the round of 16, this is a very piece of silverware for him in his short career. So hopefully it's the first of many. Now, we know that realistically he won't feature in the Europa League but having all 4 of the tournaments, which is Ligue 1, the Europa League, the Cup, and the League Cup next season, hopefully it will push the coach to rotate much more. And this will make room for our youngster to hopefully much more minutes to next semester. So it will be a boost for his career. Very hoping for this. Very much hoping for this.
And Armen, who was the second Armenian to get European competition?
Of course, our flaming hot champion today, Sarkis Adamian, who, as we mentioned, he scored today in Bruges' final match against Antwerp, I think, of the season, and they clinched the Belgian league title, champions, which is huge in my opinion. And of course, they're gonna qualify for UEFA Champions League group stage immediately and automatically. We don't know if Sako is renewing his contract. If he's on loan. Well, that's the problem. As Aram mentioned to us before the pod, apparently Bruges coach Schreuder is set to leave the club.
Yeah, he's leaving. Ajax. He's leaving for Ajax. Yeah.
Apparently, and Sako reportedly convinced Bruges' board to buy him out of Hoffenheim and into Bruges permanently. But we don't know if that's going to be the case now that Schreuder is leaving the club. Hopefully, I don't know what I hope for.
What I'm thinking is that he will stay.
A great team.
But he might stay because Ajax is. I mean, both clubs, both Bruges and Ajax, focus on youth development, bringing on youth players to always, keep bringing them and playing them. Yeah. They're heavily focused on that. But
and he already knows his teammates and the club at Bruges. It's like
there's that too. He's already settled in a way. He's already found his feet there. He's already found his feet. And I mean, depends also how they do in the market, in the transfer market as well. Maybe they would like to sell another player like other players. They've got very good players this season. Dekaterar, I don't know if that's how you say his name. He's been insanely good. Lank has been playing amazing. They have many players who could be big targets for European powerhouses. So it will open up space for him.
And here's the thing, though. Sako, we know, is a player that he thrives in a particular system, and Schroeder's system is that system. And I would obviously I want to see him in UCL. He deserves it. He really does. And I think if he stays at Bruges, we don't know who the next manager is, and I think the next manager could come in and be like, "I'm not using you ever," and then he's shit out of luck. Even though I don't know why a manager would do that, but alternatively, I mean, if Schroeder is going to Ajax, I'm just taking a look at Ajax's depth chart at center forward, and it's actually not as good as you guys think it is. We have Sebastian Haller, the former West Ham striker, who has been on fire. Amazing, but they do play a 2-striker system, and their second striker is Brian Bobby, who is actually who's a loan player from RB Leipzig. And then Danilo Pereira, who is actually contract is expiring and they're not renewing it. So they actually need another center forward.
Okay, this is possible actually then.
So obviously Schroeder has done it once already. He has already pulled Sako. He can do it again. But of course, seeing an Armenian play for Ajax again, because we have had two players there before, Edgar Manochar and Aras Osbilis.
It would be sick.
Awesome. It would be sick. I mean, and they're in Champions League also. And I think that's what he should aim for. I think he deserves to be playing in European competition. He deserves to be playing in the Champions League because he was integral in Bruges' second half of the season to qualify.
Yeah, and the one season that he played Europe, it was with Hoffenheim, and he did wonderful. He had
Yeah.
some great stats.
Yeah.
Like
So
he's there, he's more than good enough. He has the stats, he has everything to his name.
And continuing this European theme, in terms of direct qualifications, those are the only two players we have. But in terms of qualifying for European competition, we have several so far. Hovannes Hambarzuman and Anthorsi qualified for the Conference League. They will start in round 2. Tico and Slovan have qualified for the UEFA Champions League round 1. Kisvarda with Albov Avetisian, Football Kentron Future Stars, have also qualified for the Conference League round 2. Astana with Kamo have qualified for the Conference League, and so have Pogon with Vahan Bichakchan. That's all we've had so far. I'm anticipating us getting a few.
Exactly. So far, without mentioning possible transfers coming up.
Yeah, and we do expect
Some.
some. So, and hopefully they play for these teams that are competing in Europe. But speaking of competing in Europe, Henrik Mkhitaryan and Roma will face Feyenoord of the Dutch Eredivisie in the first ever UEFA Europa Conference League final. Henrik, as you know, is the first Armenian to win a continental title and now has the chance to do it again. Henrik has been injured, but he is set to be fit for this match. First Armenian citizen, Armin is correcting me. Well, you play for the national team, you're Armenian. We're leaving it at that.
That's not as simple. That's not how identity works. But okay.
That's not how identity works, but that's how nationality in football works. So, for all intents and purposes, he is the first Armenian to win a continental trophy. Interestingly enough, the last time when Henrik won the Europa League with Manchester United, Jose Mourinho was his manager, and he was also teammates with Chris Smalling. Now history is looking to repeat itself with Jose Mourinho at the helm of AS Roma and Chris Smalling playing an important role in Roma's defense. So hopefully Henrik can get fit and win us another title and take pictures with the Armenian flags for us to post all over social media. Moving on to arguably the largest piece of individual news in terms of the Armenian national team in this episode. Armen, I'm going to let you take this one because this is a guy that you have been raving about for a very, 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 very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I love him. I love him very much because he's awesome. But again, he shouldn't have been the only news we got this year. But it's a good start. After a lot of speculation, months and months of speculation, FC Veles Moscow MVP and captain of the Russian Capitals team, we're talking about 22-year-old offensive midfielder, and that's the thing, is an offensive midfielder. Shocker, another offensive midfielder, Artur Galoyan. He flew to Armenia to get his citizenship. Of course, he already has it by now, and he has been unveiled as the new Armenian national team reinforcement for the upcoming big Nations League window coming up one of these weeks. And the camp, of course, training. We are really looking forward to that one. The FFA posted a short video presenting him, meeting with Cap, Joaquin Caparros, the coach, the coaching staff, and a short interview, actually, which you can find at the FFA social media platform. Of course, Artur himself gave several interviews separately to both Armenian as well as Russian media hubs. Here's some interesting snips, in my opinion, of those interviews, where he says, a couple years ago, a Russian journalist said on TV that my intention was to play for Russia. And I wanted to make clear that I simply didn't pay attention to it because I just never thought about that as anything other than journalistic sensationalism. Never in my mind have I implied that my dream was anything other than to play for Armenia, simply because I am Armenian. Period. I may have been born and raised here. Of course, he's talking about Russia, but my blood is Armenian. My last name is Armenian. And wow, man, this guy is awesome. And my parents are Armenian. My social environment is Armenian. My homeland is Armenia, and my whole identity is Armenian. In case it wasn't clear, by the way, this is me, Armin Tang. He wants to make it very clear, apparently. How not to love this kid, man? 22 years old, by the way, and he's already team captain. And he tops it off saying, there has never been another option in my mind that wasn't the Armenian national team. And now he's made it.
That is what we like to see, right? That's what we talk about a lot about
talk about drive.
Diaspora and players. We know we have those players that, oh, I don't know, I want to wait, I'm focusing on my career, Tiknesian. And then we have players like this.
Buddy, yeah.
Yeah, you're not just him. I just wanted to pick him out, pick on him. But this is what I've said, that I want players that say, no, I want to play for Armenia, and that's what he does. And this makes me respect him infinitely
pretty clear.
More. Yeah, and he also actually did an interview with Corner Football Armenia.
He went around, like he went around and then had some media days where he specifically dedicated his time to journalists, and that's good. That's some good time management.
And he's a player that has, I mean, currently does play in the second division of Russia, of course, but has had a lot of buzz. I mean, he had a transfer to CSKA that was canceled.
Numbers.
Yeah, and he has Spezia numbers, and he has a lot of interest. CSKA, when Ivica Olic was the head coach, tried to sign him, but he got fired, and when Berzitsky took over, the deal fell apart, and he also almost went to Ghent, which would have been another crazy move. So I anticipate, yeah, and with a good, I think, Nations League campaign, maybe a goal or a goal and an assist to his name, I think we can see him make a very, very solid move this summer as well. I'm very excited.
Yeah, transfer window coming up.
Yeah, and this is
Go ahead. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I don't know. Yeah, he also posted on social media. And I want to say that in case it wasn't clear enough, he says on Instagram, finally, my dream came true. There's a lot of work for me to do ahead to prove that I'm worthy of being in the Armenian national team in the upcoming games. Thanks everyone for your support. Let's go Armenia. And as Charan says, Ara Chayastan. And I think it's clear like that he wants to wear the jersey. I think Kaparos is gonna use him.
I think so too. I don't think he would have given the blessing to have that happen, you know, to make him a permanent citizen of Armenia and get his passport without him being in Cap's plans. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see a second Edo Skarchian. You know?
And bro, today he played today when we are recording, right? And I don't know if you remember, I literally told you, Galoyan assisted for Georg Sarkisian to score. And man, they both have the same patriotism in them. They both take pictures with the Armenian flag, the Armenian scarves, with Armenian fans. They both are the same age. They're best friends, right?
Yeah.
I honestly think it's weird that we got him, that we got Arthur. Not that I'm complaining about him. I love him and more than welcome him. Like it's awesome to have him on board. But weird to have him and not have him come with his teammate and best friend Georg Sarkisian.
Well, we don't know. We don't know that yet. Sarkisian's name could just pop up in the squad. You know, he might not need an official.
It would be the best plot twist I've seen in a long time. Yeah, it would be Hollywood worthy. Sarkisian is a striker who's on sick form, as I just mentioned. He scored again today, this weekend. Well, it's his rookie season as a pro. Altogether, also by the way, and subsequently much lower profile that Kaloyan that has been a pro for at least 3 years. So that's why it doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't you sign a low-profile player that Russia clearly doesn't need or doesn't have him in their plans, unlike Kaloyan, which was in Russian national team plans. So that was way harder to get. Kaloyan was really hard to get for the FFA, so props for them. But it wouldn't make sense to me not getting Sarkisian. So hopefully, as you say, it's hidden, it's concealed, and it will be announced with the list. But it wouldn't make sense not to have him.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping for a couple surprises, Kovalenko. I'm not holding my breath, to be honest.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. And we'll talk national team when the squad gets released. We're anticipating to be this week, the week of this recording is released, and we will be posting in consecutive weeks because we do want to have a breakdown of the national team squad for you guys. And speaking of breakdowns of the national team squad, we will also be doing a special Twitter Spaces with Armenian Football in Francais. A probably fully French Twitter Spaces that's going to be hosted by our friend Theo, who was a friend of Football Kentron, was on the very first special member. That's a good title.
I don't know how member is in French, but I'm sure special in French. I'm sure special is spécial.
A spécial member of Football Kentron.
Member spécial.
So we will.
Stay tuned for that. I mean, not that this would make sense because this audience is English speaking. I don't know who we're saying this to, but if you understand French, spread the word.
So, speaking of the national team, let us turn our attention to the many national teams of Armenian football. We'll start with the women's national team, who are currently bottom of their qualifying campaign. They had a 12-0 loss to Poland on April 7th and a 4-0 loss at home to Albania. The first season wraps up in 10 years, and it was obviously not as successful as we would have hoped. We would have hoped for at least to score a goal, but it's okay. I mean, it's going to be a process. We didn't have a consistent squad, so and Armenian football women's game in Armenia is still growing. So we're hoping to continue to see the growth of Armenia's women's football. But let me kick it over to Chadens, who has a very interesting idea, actually, to maybe help improve Armenia. Chadens?
Yeah, this idea was already introduced by the UEFA. However, I don't think they already implemented yet. They are doing it, I believe, with the women's U19 and 17. I think it's doing a Nations League system for women's, because I haven't done the full research yet, but there must be a pattern where some women's national teams are losing with a very high goal difference, a very high. Like some are 7-0, some are 8-0,
even 2 digits. Yeah, 2 digits.
2 digits, even 2 digits, unfortunately. And the other team sometimes even not being able to score a goal. So it's not just Armenian women's football the issue. The issue is just the women need different style of opportunity, different style of system to be able to get more opportunities. So I'm hoping to see you. I'm waiting for UEFA to fully implement this idea, to fully implement what they had announced a few months ago. Hopefully they do this as soon as possible so that our ladies can be able to play football more equally and with a better environment.
Yeah, these are the type of changes we would hope to implement because we want to see Armenia be competitive. if you look at that friendly tournament that they organized, that the FFA organized before this
2 years
qualifying
ago.
campaign, yeah, it was with teams that were in Armenia's level, and Armenia was winning.
Oh yeah,
So
Lebanon, I think
yeah,
Lithuania, or was it Latvia?
I think it
No,
was,
Lithuania.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what we want to
Kazakhstan.
see. Was it Kazakhstan?
Well, there was some point that was
Yeah,
a friendly a few months ago.
Yeah,
The
those
tournament
it
was last year, I think.
Yeah.
They
The
won.
tournament.
Yeah,
So
The
more
tournament
things
was
like that.
Lebanon, Jordan, and
and
Lithuania, I believe.
Belarus.
Was it
No,
Belarus?
instead of Georgia wasn't in it. It was Belarus in it.
No, Jordan.
Jordan.
Oh,
Last
Jordan,
year.
yeah.
Last year.
Oh, yeah. And Belarus too, and Lithuania.
Yeah.
That we had no losses. It was just
yeah, it
like
was a
there
good
was a
start.
friendly. It was good. Yeah. Like the thing is, there's even 2 games left for this
Yeah.
qualifiers. There's still away at Kosovo and home to Belgium.
Well,
Yeah.
that's more practice. I mean, by
It's
now
more
it's
practice
nothing
in
more
a
than
sense.
more, more fitness, more practice. They got to get used to that level, you know, and it's good. I mean,
There's also
Yeah,
a key component that Aram mentioned.
mhm.
The fact that there's always a rotation with the team. There are some players that I see a lot who often are picked, but there are also some players who are not often picked, and you can see just different players coming in and going out.
Yeah,
So-
that core isn't there. You know, they haven't developed
Mm.
that core of players yet.
Yeah,
Moving on to futsal.
another expertise.
Yeah, another expertise of yours, Jonathan, so this will be coming your way. So Armenia was in the preliminary round, which is the first round of 3 rounds, I think, to get to the Futsal World Cup. Lots of stages. And Armenia was
Yeah.
placed in a group with Scotland, Bulgaria, and Kosovo. And Armenia had some crazy results. Won 11-0 against Scotland, 3-0 against Bulgaria, and 2-1 against Kosovo. That's scoring 16 goals and only conceding 1.
Do we, if we have Western Armenian speakers, this is what you call Totvetsing.
Totvetsink, yeah, exactly. And Armenia came out from the group first place with Kosovo in second place, and they've made it to the next round, where we don't know who they're going to play yet. I believe the draw is going to take place on July 6th, where the 36 remaining teams are going to be drawn into 12 groups of 3 and play home and away, and the 12 group winners and 4 best runners-up go to the elite round, where they play more, and then there's like a main round, and then I think a total of like, how many countries get in, Sean? It's like 8?
Yeah, I think so. I think it breaks down to 8.
Yeah, so hopefully,
there's
a
lot of potential.
I would like to see Armenia get past this next round too.
Yeah,
no anticipation.
It's highly possible.
Highly possible. No real expectations, but they're doing good. The futsal has been surprisingly very good for us lately. Moving on to the Armenia under-21 national team. They have a couple of games next month. June 2nd against Macedonia away and June 7th against France at home. Armenia is currently sitting last place with 3 points. And there's, I believe, only Macedonia is 3 points ahead of them. So I guess a win against Macedonia would be nice, but not really having any sort of expectations for them. In terms of Armenian senior national team, which is, of course, the main event, we will be previewing the UEFA Nations League and a lot of other stuff when the squad gets released. Armen, what are the dates for the matches? Can you please remind the listeners?
Yes, sir. We have the opener, the season opener, which is, by the way, for those who may not be all that familiar with the groups and our opponents and how things are looking on paper for us beforehand, we are going to be playing Ireland for the opener. On paper, basically, Ireland is our main opponent to fight against, like, to avoid relegation back to the UEFA Nations League C. So basically what that means is we need to win that opener. We need to win that game. Besides, it's the one at home. Like, we have basically the game with most chances for us to win first. It's going to be on June the 4th of June. So I can't stress how important and how deciding this game is going to be. Of course, we're going to have feelings towards how good we're looking once the squad list is announced. But June the 4th is our season debut. Then June the 8th, we're going to be visiting Scotland. Super difficult game. 3 days later, we're going to be away to Ukraine on June the 11th. And we're going to close that first Nations League window against Scotland at home in Yerevan on June the 14th. A lot of games for 2 weeks. Adam, you're muted.
And we do open up the games against the Republic of Ireland in Yerevan, a boogeyman of sorts for us ever since that Euro 2012 match. And we have a little special Q&A session here with the Irish Football Blog and a Nations League Once Again podcast. These are two different social media accounts that dedicate their time to furthering the attention on Irish football. Irish Football Blog is a more global and analytical account that looks deeply into all aspects of Irish football, to youth teams, women's teams, and so on and so forth, similar to what we do. But they also do a lot of writing and have recently launched their own podcast. A Nations League, once again, is a new podcast dedicated to the Irish national team in the UEFA Nations League. I had a discussion with these two gentlemen about the Irish national team to give us a little bit of a taste of what we can expect. Without further ado, here is that interview. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Football Kentron, where we are joined by two very special guests, the Bill from the Irish Football Blog and Gavin from a Nations League once again. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on Football Kentron. Thank you for talking to us about Irish football and the Irish national team. Let's just start with you, Bill. Irish Football Blog. What is it? What do you do? What do you cover?
I suppose, yeah, so Irish Football Blog really begun in 2021. It was tasked with advancing coverage of Irish football and covering areas which weren't necessarily covered by the general media or, I want to say, other accounts. So what we did was I created 50 commercial marketing based ideas which to advance the game. And since then I've gone through about 110, I think, and with another 60 to come in June. Other than that, I suppose we do scouting series where we profile a different player from different area of Irish football each week. Squad depth series where we cover over 310 professional players. And then the Pedicast podcast, which we just started last week there, where it's going to be a discussion-based Irish football show. And yeah, just other general opinions and my own rants, but that's what we do.
Awesome. That's a lot of stuff to cover. I envy you. Gavin, a Nations League once again. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as the name suggests, it's a bit more niche and not as wide ranging as what Bill is doing. So it's a podcast that I started recently, just based on Ireland's Nations League campaign, and I suppose focusing on Ireland themselves and on the opponents. Hence why we've ended up talking to you guys from an Armenian football perspective. But yeah, just trying to put some podcasts out there focused on the campaign itself. The name is a bit tongue in cheek. There's a famous Irish song called A Nation once again. So yeah, little tongue in cheek name for the podcast itself. Very new, but yeah, exciting times, and looking forward to doing this and doing the interview ourselves. Aware of Bill's stuff that he's doing as well. We follow each other on Twitter, I believe. So I've seen his podcast launching there last week, and he was very kind when I did start to give me a retweet and point people in direction of the podcast. So yeah, very happy to be here and looking forward to having a chat.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for coming onto the show. Let's jump straight into it. First, with our head-to-head records. Armenia and Ireland have only played each other twice. And this was in the 2010-2011 season for the Euro 2012 qualifiers. And Ireland came out the favorites in both games, edged us out by a goal. I don't know if you guys on the Irish side see it this way, but that match in Dublin is a game that many Armenians believe cursed us for a very long time. It's very superstitious. Well, what are your just quick thoughts on our head-to-head records and that one match that shall not be named? Gavin, let's start with you.
Yeah, so if I remember correctly, that's the one where you guys had a player sent off. Was it your goalkeeper came out?
Roman
centre forward Simon Cox. Yeah, and I think it was possibly harsh if my memory doesn't fail me. But yeah, it's like you say, it's very rare that we've played each other at all. I don't think the games were great. We would have been playing under Giovanni Trapattoni at that time. We did actually qualify for that tournament, Euro 2012. We weren't playing the most easy on the eye football, and I from what I remember, the game was very. There wasn't much, especially that game in Dublin. There wasn't a whole lot of quality on show, so a happy memory in terms of we got the win, and it was an important win to help us qualify. But I don't remember a whole lot else of the game other than the red card and a single goal victory.
Yeah, Bill, what about you?
Yeah, I'm literally just googling the match because I couldn't actually exactly remember it. But what I would say is that, Ireland and Armenia in 2010 or whatever, it's 12 years gone, and the Irish national team is completely different. And what I would say is expect a different Ireland. We're a lot more pragmatic then. We're a lot more, defensive minded or whatever. I think you should expect a different Ireland this side, and I expect Ireland to go out and attack from the start, to be honest.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I mean, this game for us can be summarized as like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the meme from Avengers Endgame, where I can't remember what character it was, goes up to Thanos and says, "You took everything from me," and then Thanos says, "I don't even know who you are." That's how Armenians feel about this relationship between Armenia and Ireland, because we feel like that game against Ireland took so much away from us because it was our ticket to second place, which we've never.
From what I remember, now that you're saying it, I remember when we played Armenia in that group, it looked like you had like a young, exciting, upcoming team that were going to be quite good in the kind of years following that, but I don't know that it ever I suppose that's what you're getting at, is that it cursed you. It didn't really kind of move on from there. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
We had I want to say 8 years of the worst experience of all time. I mean, it just kept on getting lower and lower and lower, and we were like, man, we thought rock bottom was low, but we got even lower. It was, and there was a lot of falling out, political things played into it. A lot of players that we'd love to see in the national team shirt we didn't see for a long time. So there was a lot of issues. I think it was that little movement that started an avalanche.
Yeah, it's good to know we're not your rock bottom. So.
Oh no! We've hit rock bottom on 2 separate occasions. We don't need to get into that. Anyway, so let's start with question number 1. How would you describe the Irish national team as of now? What would you highlight for the general picture of how Ireland currently play, or maybe not necessarily play, but the look of Ireland? Let's start with you, Gavin.
Yeah, sure. So I suppose the over kind of bearing thing that I would say at the moment with the Irish national team is there's a lot of positivity around. There's certainly a good bond has developed between Stephen Kenny, the manager, his staff, the players, and the fans over the past kind of 12 months. We hit, speaking of rock bottoms, I suppose we hit somewhat of a rock bottom early last year, March of last year, when we were beaten at home by Luxembourg, and this would have been during the time of the COVID lockdown. So there was no fans in the stadium. We lost 1-0 to them. We just didn't look like a team that was going anywhere. It was very early in Stephen Kenny's tenure, and we kind of, it was hard to see where we were going to go from there. But since then, really, it's it's been a kind of a gradual improvement the whole way along over the course of those 12 months. We're now at a period where we've 1 defeat in our last 11 games. Alternatively, at that time during the Luxembourg run, we had 1 win, we'd no wins in 11 matches during that period. And I think you guys are kind of going through something similar at the moment. But yeah, just overall, I suppose positivity would be the message. There's a really good mood around the camp. From the media themselves are at times being accused of being overly positive when reporting on the team. But yeah, I just think we look like we're in a good place. We look like we're going in a good direction, and it seems that the players, staff, and management have a really good bond amongst themselves. And I think we're playing in a way that's quite different to how we would have played under previous managers, Trapattoni and O'Neill. We're kind of playing a nicer style of football as well. So yeah, it's positive. Like our recent results, we've had draws with Serbia and Portugal. We just lost to Portugal in Portugal with 2 late goals from Cristiano Ronaldo, and we recently had a draw with Belgium and a last minute win over Lithuania. So things are looking good at the moment. But I suppose that the Nations League, right? The intention is that you're going to be playing teams in and around your level. So this group coming up will be really interesting to see where we really are at.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned the undefeated streaks, because yes, we did as Armenia experience a very similar thing, except it was the opposite. We went undefeated for 11 games, including a draw versus Croatia, which was big. Even though it was in a friendly, for us it was big, and some crazy wins against Iceland and Romania. It was insane time. And then we went on a 10-game winless streak. We did get draws. I think half of those games were draws, but I mean, not getting 3 points for 10 games hurts. Let's see here, Bill. What do you think? What do you currently see as the national team picture for Ireland? How is that shaping up in your eyes?
Look, one thing I would highlight, and it's the slow changing picture of the national squad. I thought we have an awful lot of younger players now. We'll get into them as well, but you've Gavin Bazunu, Travers, and Kieran Keller, which are 3 top-class goalkeepers in my opinion, all under the age of 25. You've up-and-coming young players in all positions, so you've Abomadad Belly, so Darrow O'Shea, even like Troy Parrott is coming alive again. So the one thing I highlight is an awful lot of these players are beginning to show actual signs that they can fulfill their underage potential. And I don't think there's any fear in this bunch. I genuinely think that Kenny and the atmosphere around the international team he's instilling into them, we can go out there, why can't we win matches, why can't we play the game the right way or whatever. When in the past, I suppose, Martin O'Neill will come out and say, we're a long ball team, and that's the face of it. And you see that more, cynicism around the national team. I think he's instilled kind of a vibrancy into the Irish players, and you can really see that in how expressive they can be on the pitch. So Callum Robinson is coming alive now, scoring a lot of goals. Troy Parrott again. So I just think Kenny has put his faith in the younger players, where in the past we may not have, and we're seeing the fruits of that finally.
Well, speaking of players, Bill, we'll stay with you for this one. How do you think the squad depth's looking like for Ireland? Where are the shortcomings, and what areas of the pitch do you see Ireland being generally well fed?
Look, I suppose even in our worst times, we were never short on goalkeepers. As I said, like in the past we had, Shea Given, Patrick Bonner before my time, and Darren Randolph. But like I think if you're to look at any nation, to get a single set of goalkeepers of Travers, Bazunu, and Keller quality, I think that rivals most nations in this world, to be honest. And that might sound hyperbolic, but a lot of these goalkeepers are 5 or 6 years, 10 years younger than some international keepers for their national sides. So they're only on an upward trajectory. Again, the defense, I don't think we ever have had issues really. Like in my depth chart list, I highlighted I think it was 50 professional Irish centre backs are playing at the moment, and an awful lot of them are at quite a high level. So that's nice to see. But one thing I would highlight is where we may be lacking depth is on the wings. So historically, we had players like Aidan McGeady, Damien Duff, Stephen Hunt, James McLean, and all fantastic wingers for our country with 90 caps plus. But there is a bit of a shortage on wingers at the moment inside. You might have Anthony Scully, who could get promoted from the under-21s, but I think the reason why we're playing a 3-4-3 at the moment, a lot of it is because, or actually we're playing 3-4-2-1 it's because of the lack of wingers. We don't actually necessarily have many at the moment.
Interesting.
It will be a shortcoming in the side, but if I just may put it, that may be reflective. That may be reflective of the changing face of football and how there's less wingers now, maybe. But it just seems like there's a shortage of wingers coming through at the moment, and that's why it's influencing our style of play, where we're choosing 3-4-3.
Yeah. You mentioned Aidan McGeady. He played at CSKA Moscow, right? At one point, was he the one that played there? Yeah, he did. Yeah, because he played alongside Urartu Sisyan, who was our longtime striker for the national team. Gavin, in your eyes, what is the shortcomings and strong areas for the Irish national team?
Yeah, well, I think shortcomings. We've always had a bit of an issue around. Well, I say always. Since Robbie Keane has retired, we've lacked a really good top class goal scorer. So Robbie Keane was, he's one of the top scorers in international football history. 68 goals, I think he ended up with. Yeah. But since he's retired, we've never had a striker who we would be confident of, going out there and getting a goal every couple of games or every 3 games even, so that's one area where we are lacking. But in fairness, since Stephen Kenny has taken over, I think that the goals are a lot more spread out recently. Callum Robinson has kind of stepped up to the plate. Well, certainly last year he had a purple patch where I think he scored something like 7 goals over the course of 3 games. So, but again, I don't know that's something he's necessarily going to sustain for us. So a really good goal scorer would be one. There was one other area I would suggest, again, harking back to somebody who retired recently. Wes Houlihan would have been our creative midfielder. And again, our midfielders are good, they're dependable kind of players, but there's none there that's really will get the ball in kind of tight spaces or create play really creative passes out of nothing. Jeff Hendrick kind of has that role under Kennedy recently, but he's not at that same kind of creative level that Wes Houlihan would have been at. So they're kind of the two I would call out for shortcomings. I kind of agree with a lot of what Bill said in terms of where we have strength. The goalkeepers, Gavin Bazunu is on the books of Man City. He spent this season on loan at Portsmouth and has done really well in League One. And there's talk of him moving to Everton or possibly Southampton in the summer. Keevan Gallagher, any fans that listen to your show, any Liverpool fans who listen to your show will be aware of Kevan Gallagher. He's the backup keeper to Alisson for Liverpool. Played in the League Cup final, scored a penalty for Liverpool in the League Cup final. And then we have Mark Travers as well, who is playing at Bournemouth, who won promotion from the Championship. Again, one of the kind of most consistent keepers in the Championship this year. So 3 of them are very, very young, all in their early 20s. I think Gavin Bazunu is not long turned 20. So really, really kind of for the next 10 years or so, it looks like from a goalkeeping point of view, touch wood, we're well covered. So yeah, I would say that's kind of the strongest area, but defense would also be strong in terms of the number of centre backs that we have. But yeah, I think if you were to put a gun to my head and say you have to pick one area, it would be goalkeeper.
Okay. Doubling back really quick to Robbie Keane, I was fortunate enough to watch him play a lot when he played for the LA Galaxy. Amazing player, man. I love that guy. He was such a good professional, such a great goal scorer. I miss watching him because I would see him, on a weekly basis here. Sticking with you, Gavin, you guys have, as you mentioned, this lack of goal scoring coming from a center forward. So how would you describe the Irish style of play nowadays? Is it more of a utilitarian, everyone does their role type deal? Or are you guys, it doesn't sound like you guys are relying on any specific player to be doing a lot of the creative work or goal scoring. So what is that looking like right now? What formation do Ireland play, and what's the philosophy?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question from the point of view of when Stephen Kenny took over. He was very, so Stephen Kenny was managing the under-21s, and it had been agreed that he would succeed Mick McCarthy as the senior team manager. And there was kind of a long lead into him taking over as the manager of the senior team. And he'd done a number of interviews, and he consistently talked about the fact that he wanted to change Ireland's kind of change the view of Ireland and how we play. Traditionally, a lot of people from overseas would see Ireland as, in inverted commas, a British team. We play a British style of football, right? But Kenny was very strong in saying that he wanted to move away from that. So when he took over, we started with a 4-3-3, which he would have employed a lot at his club team Dundalk. And he tried to play a possession-based game. And in fairness, you could see, we have this thing where previous managers, Bill kind of alluded to it with Martin O'Neill, would have, one of these common lines was we don't have the players, as in the players weren't good enough to play a progressive style of football or possession-based style of football. But you could see from those early games that they were capable of actually, passing the ball and not having to kind of go to long ball kind of tactics. But he has said recently that they had a friendly defeat against England where they lost 3-0, and he decided at that time that the fullbacks were being pinned back too much, and it was kind of, we were struggling to get up the pitch. And at that point, they made a switch to what they're currently playing, which is a 3-4-2-1 formation, kind of similar to what Chelsea play, if you're familiar with Chelsea and how they play. It's that kind of formation, and it's worked wonders, I suppose, for us. We look a much more solid team. We have, as we mentioned earlier, the centre backs. We have a good strength and depth at centre back. We have 3 really strong centre backs that we can play, and then we kind of have 2 almost inside wingers, I suppose, inverted wingers, if you want to call them that support a single front man. So the style of play is much more, I would say, possession based than it has been. Again, under the previous managers, we look to where we can be progressive on the ball, especially. So when we're in possession, we'll be as progressive as possible. We'll use the wing backs as much as we can, getting them up and down. And I suppose if we have to be, as I said, Kenny made that switch from 4-3-3 to 3-4-2-1. What also changed was we're not as, I suppose, possession based as we would have been in the 4-3-3, and the team are not afraid to be pragmatic when they need to be. If a press comes on and they feel they need to get rid of the ball, they will. But generally, they'll pass the ball as much as possible. They'll play out from the back. Gavin Bazunu and Kevin Kelleher are both excellent with their feet, whichever one plays. Generally, it's Bazunu. So keepers are happy to kind of get involved in the build-up play from the back. So that's kind of how we're playing at the moment. And I have to say, I'm, in all the time I've been watching Ireland, it's a long time since I've kind of seen us play this type of football. Maybe Mick McCarthy's first time in charge of the Republic of Ireland, we kind of played a, I suppose, decent bit of football, but we would have had much better quality players at that time than we have now. Even with our squad, where majority are probably championship, with a mix of Premier League and League One, you may say, well, they're not playing at a particularly high level, but they're certainly capable of maintaining possession and playing good football.
Interesting. Well, Bill, new formation, young personnel, different style of play. Good results so far, but what do you feel are the shortcomings of these changes, if any?
Look, I tend to be more pragmatic. I look at this in a sense of an evolving system. I suppose we started out like for generations, and right back to Jack Charlton, we were, as I said, the pragmatic side, and we were trying to be more robust and defensive, whatever. So any changes that we make and any assertions we make on the side and what the difficulty, the problems I think we'll be short-sighted at the moment. Like, we have to leave this play out for a while. But again, I've mentioned again, in the beginning stages, we were perhaps a bit too possession based, and we're trying to pass the ball around too much. And again, personally, that's not a style I'd exactly like either, because I suppose it's important to be able to mix it up. And I think what you see is, again, I've touched on, what you do see is that is what Ireland are doing now. We are kind of, to look at Shifshu Ogbene, he's like a very direct and powerful type of winger. So when the short ball isn't there, so the option is behind for Ogbene or even Robson to run in behind and to take on the defence. One shortcoming I suppose I would like to see change is, it's not really a shortcoming, but I think we could make the argument that some of these players could be moved on even quicker, in my opinion. And I know it's not a really popular opinion, but Coleman, Duffy, Egan, and even Long and Cole, they're all going to be 34, 35 in the coming qualifying campaign, and even next tournament if we're going to get that far. So I think it's nearly time to start phasing a lot of these players out too.
Quick follow-up on those players. Those aging players, are they regulars in the starting 11?
Yeah, like I actually have it up here. So if you look at the minutes for all the players, number 2 you have Doherty. I suppose he's 30, so it's not too bad. 666 minutes. Egan 29, again he's not too young. But Coleman it has the 5th most minutes for Ireland, so 540. You have Duffy, who has 540. McLean is the 9th most minutes, 430. So, well, you can see that the changing landscape in the national team. There is a few older players, and I think I'd be alone in suggesting that a lot of these players should be phased out quicker. But I think it's time, because then even if you look at like players like Kieran Clark or James Collins, who've only contributed 140, 122 minutes, like, it would really do the squad any harm to bring in 22-year-old, 21-year-old that's kind of upcoming and might be involved in the international setup for the next 10 years. I don't think we'd be losing too much by getting rid of two or three more players, even the fringe players that are a lot older, because I think it would fasten the change and improve the team quicker.
I see. That's a good argument. We have a similar thing going on, so I agree with a lot of the sentiments you bring up. Gavin, speaking of this player, this squadless and style of play, give us 2 standout players that we should be looking at during this Nations League campaign for Ireland.
Yeah, okay. So I have a feeling we may have similar players if we're asked this question, myself and Bill. I have 4. I'll give you 2 of the 4 that I have. So the first one would be Chidozie Ogbene. So he became the first African-born player to be capped for Ireland, I think last year, and has since become the first African-born player to score a goal for Ireland as well. And he has been excellent since he has come in. He's playing for Rotherham in League One. They've just won promotion to the Championship, and he has been a breath of fresh air for Ireland. He scored 3 goals in his first 7 internationals. He scored recently against Belgium, and has just kind of come into the team. He's added pace. And probably we spoke about shortcomings earlier. That would have been one that I would have felt we had for a long time, was a lack of pace. But Ogbene is, he's very quick. He plays as one of we said a 3-4-2-1. He plays as one of those 2, or will play as the 1 up front, depending on how Kenny wants to play it. But he brings pace that we just haven't had for a good while into the team, and he just seems to be quite fearless, So yeah, Ogbene, generally from the feedback from within the squad, if you hear any of the guys interviewed, is that he's really well liked around the place and seems to have been a real breath of fresh air within the squad. As I said, he's fearless, he's confident, and he's just looked excellent for us and has made a big difference in the 7 games that he's played for us. And I would suggest he's probably not far off being one of the kind of first names on the team sheet at this stage for Stephen Kenny. And if you were to push me on another one, I would suggest, while maybe not the most glamorous of players, Josh Cullen has played every minute of a World Cup qualifying campaign. He's a central midfielder playing with Anderlecht at the moment. He was at West Ham for most of his career, his youth career, and then latterly he was out on loan a number of times from West Ham. But he moved to Anderlecht with Vincent Kompany, and he's become a mainstay of that team since he's gone there. Vincent Kompany seems to love him. He plays 90 minutes in pretty much every game for Anderlecht, and recently discussing before the Belgium match with some of the guys from the Belgian Football Podcast, they mentioned Cullen actually has the most outfield minutes in the Belgian top flight this season of any player. So yeah, similar for us. He played every minute of our World Cup qualifying campaign. He's come up with some kind of important assists for goals as well. Not much of a goal threat, but he's very, like I said, he's very dependable. He's a good kind of continuity midfielder. Gets the ball from the centre backs, keeps it moving in centre midfield. Not afraid to get forward and support, and has a decent set piece on him. So they would be two that I would kind of call out if you were to ask me to name some of the standout players at the moment.
Yeah, Belgium seems to be a really good league to revitalize players. We've had a similar experience with our striker Sargis Adamian, who is a Hoffenheim player and was loaned out to Club Brugge for the second half of the season, and he's, I think, scored 7 goals since, and including the title-winning game today. So it's a good league, great place.
Yeah, it is. And Stephen Kenny, the Irish manager, was kind of singing his praises there recently as well, saying, you know, he looks at Josh Cullen. He wasn't getting in at West Ham. He was sitting on the bench a lot, and he's gone to Anderlecht, and he's played every week and has just come on leaps and bounds for us, for Ireland. Like, I think when Kenny took over, he was barely getting into the squad under Kenny, whereas now he's probably again one of the first names on the team sheet, and it's because he's gone and he's played regularly in a league like that. And you know, Anderlecht will be in Europe next season, and he'll be playing in Europe with them. So there's definitely benefits to, and you know, we are starting to see with young Irish players that a lot of them are going kind of to more European leagues recently, it seems. Anyway, maybe it's just reported more these days than previous, but it does seem to be that a lot of them are happy to go abroad now into Europe and kind of take that step, whereas previously a lot would have been dependent on moving over to England to play Premier League, or you know, in the Championship or League One. But
yeah, there is a world thing, outside.
You know, yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see, Bill, your 2 picks. Who are 2 players that we should look out for with the Irish national team?
Just to preface it, the way I'd find, you know, the key players for Ireland would be what players, if missing, would Ireland miss the most. So I think, like, for example, I'm going to contradict myself here, but anyway. But like, if you look at the centre back situation again, like, I think we have so many top level centre backs that if you were to input one out for the other or whatever, I don't think it makes a massive difference to the side. But one player I would say it makes a huge difference to the side, and I think without him, Ireland are a lot weaker, is Callum Robinson. So it's not really a bold pick or whatever, but since 2021, he has 6 goals in 10 games for Ireland. So I don't think that's as we mentioned, Robbie Keane, that's a level of goal scoring for international football that I don't think Ireland has seen. Well, Ireland hasn't seen for Robbie Keane, but to be honest, I don't think a lot of nations have a player that's that prolific in international football. So I think Callum Robinson really adds a different dimension to the side. I think there's an awful lot of stick he was getting from the press for different reasons, right or wrong, whatever. But I think he took that as fuel then when he came out in the national break, and he really hit the ground running, scoring lots of goals. The one player, and again, I'm contradicting myself here, but I would say I think it makes a massive difference starting with Gavin Bazunu. And I said, look, as I said, Pyunik and Ararat and Travers are top keepers. Could have careers in their own right, will have careers in their own right. But I think Gavin Bazunu is just the presence he has in the side, and you know, his real confidence and enthusiasm is infectious. Like the way he stood up and saved Cristiano Ronaldo's penalty wasn't surprising to me, because when he was 16, I actually attended Cork City being my local side, but I turned Shamrock Rovers versus Cork City, and Cork City's best player at the time, when Kieran Sadlier, was taking a penalty, and sure, you expected the ball to hit the back of the net, but 16-year-old Gavin Bazunu stood up, saved the penalty in Turner's cross, and I think within a month or two afterwards he had signed for Manchester City. So I really do think Gavin Bazunu and Conor Robson are two critical players for Ireland. And just to agree with Gavin, if I was to name four players, the four players I had were Ogbene, Josh Cullen, Bazunu and Robertson. So there is kind of a link there.
Gavin, I'm assuming you had a similar list of the four?
I didn't have Callum Robinson. I had John Egan, but the other three were the same, yeah.
Yeah, that they were the same. Good. There's a lot of synergy, clearly. So, moving on. Being a brotherly nation with Scotland, or at least neighbors, you guys probably have a lot more deeper knowledge of the Scottish national team, seeing as a lot of both of your players play in the EPL, Championship, League One, in these areas. How do you assess them as a team? Let's start with you, Gavin.
Yeah, Scotland. So I'd say at the moment I look on with a lot of envy when I look at Scotland, and they're in a position now that we probably would have been in years gone by, where a lot of kind of solid Premier League or Championship players sprinkled with kind of really good players on top of it. So they have Andy Robertson, who's playing at Liverpool, Kieran Tierney, who plays at Arsenal, Scott McTominay at Man United, really good players that we would love to kind of have players at that level. And they're challenging or qualifying for major tournaments. They played in obviously Euro 2020, and they're now in a playoff with Ukraine, who also are in our Nations League group, and for the World Cup. So they're kind of they went through a lot of kind of rough times over the past kind of 20 years or so, but they've reached a place now where they have a manager who's kind of been very progressive. They've got a good squad of players, as I said, a solid squad with a sprinkling of really good players to go with it. And it's kind of, you look at Andy Robertson, he's kind of a generational player for a team like Scotland, in the same way we spoke about Robbie Keane earlier. He's one of those players that you just don't get very often of that level from a nation like Scotland or a nation like Ireland. So, I think our matches against them will be a really good yardstick for where Ireland are at under Stephen Kenny. Stephen Kenny has made a point a few times of saying that he wants to be challenging to win the group in the Nations League. So our wins recently that we've had against Azerbaijan and Luxembourg, kind of two of not to disrespect anyone, two of the lesser nations, I suppose people would look on them as. So really, we need to be kind of seeing where we're at in terms of the likes of Scotland, Ukraine, and maybe yourselves to see how far we've come. And because, like I said, there's a lot of positivity around, but until you start playing teams in around your level, it's kind of difficult to see how far you've come. So yeah, with Scotland, we're familiar with a lot of our players. We played them under Martin O'Neill a couple of times. They were horrible games from what I remember. They kind of, Martin O'Neill at the time, I think, may have focused kind of on this kind of, it will be a bit of a battle type mentality, and they played out like that. They just weren't nice games to watch, really. The quality wasn't great. Whereas I think now, if we're to play each other, at least I hope I'm right, I think the quality of football on show will be a lot better between the two teams. But I mean, they're kind of at a point in time where we would like to be, which is challenging for or qualifying for tournaments.
Bill, how do you assess your lovely neighbors?
Just first of all, shout out to Scott McTominay. So I'm a Manchester United fan, so I'm actually a big fan of his. But what I will say is, and I wouldn't be as envious of the Scottish squad compared to Ireland, player for player, I think, bar a few standouts, I think Ireland are strong, not stronger in places. But what I will say is, Joe, if you look at Scotland's still side, a lot of their strength comes down the left-hand side. And because of that, they try to front-load as many left-hand side players into the team as they can. So I suppose they have Aaron Hickey, who's at Bologna, and I think there's rumours say he's agreed to sign for Arsenal. He's also capable of playing the right-hand side, but he's predominantly a left-hand side player. You have Kieran Tierney, who again is a left-back, and Andy Robertson is a left-back. So what you kind of see them doing is they're playing Tierney or Robertson at the left of a back three and having Robertson further up the pitch, really trying to overload that side of the pitch. And again, when you have that sort of quality, you suppose you would be doing that. But it's just like, I think then I suppose players we haven't looked at in Central Park, so they have enough depth in Central Park to be able to put McTominay back centre back, and they've John McGinn, so at Aston Villa, Billy Gilmore, who's a Chelsea Academy product on loan at Norwich now, but he's highly thought of. So there is a lot of ability in that side, in the middle of the park. But I just think, though, they're trying to put too many, fit as many players as possible into the side. And I don't know if that, I'm not going to say I watched Scotland, but will that really affect their balance? Because I'm looking at their formations here now, and one of them did a 3-4-2. They Kieran Tierney at the left-hand side of the defence, Andy Robertson on the left midfield, left wing, and in defence you have McTominay, which I still argue is probably predominantly a midfielder. So what's that? You have a left back, two left backs, a central fielder making up your defence, along with Grant Hanley, who is I don't think he'll make any Irish squad. So like there's an awful lot of quality players in there, but like it's a bit like our goalkeeper situation. They're kind of front loaded in the same areas, so they're a bit imbalanced, maybe. If that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think I can definitely see the envy of the recent successes because they have been consistently qualifying for major tournaments, and they haven't looked bad either in those major tournaments. But I'm sure there is a weakness that is yet to be exploited in their style of play that can maybe lead to their downfall. But speaking of hopeful downfalls of opposing nations, Gavin, what are your expectations for the group this season and for Ireland?
Yeah, well, maybe just a caveat, or just keep in mind, I was confident of qualifying from the Euro 2012 group that we were drawn in with Spain, Italy, Croatia. I was fully convinced we'd qualify from that group, and we ended up being heavily beaten in each of those games, really, looking back on it. But so, I suppose I am a bit of an optimist, but Stephen Kenny, like I said earlier, has said he wants to win this group, and it's a great ambition to have. But I suppose the question mark is how we do against teams of a similar level to ourselves. So we've beaten some of the kind of teams we were expected to beat in Azerbaijan and Luxembourg. We've gotten some really good draws against Belgium, Portugal, and Serbia. I would say the Serbia one was somewhat lucky, but we hung in there, and we got a late kind of goal to get that draw. So we've shown we've beat the teams we're expected to beat, and we can frustrate the kind of the stronger teams where we may have to kind of be a bit more pragmatic. So now it's kind of an interesting scenario where we're up against teams who are of a similar level to us, and how we go against them, how well we kind of take the game to them or control the game. We're on a good run. So there's definitely confidence in the camp. I'd be happy, considering it's the Nations League, I would be happy just to get a win at this point. We've played 10 matches in the Nations League. We've never won. So we're overdue a win at this point. So, but I think realistically, if we got to the last round of games and we were in contention to kind of, win the group, I'd be very happy with that. I think anything less would be somewhat of a disappointment. So I suppose to probably shorten it up, I would say, as long as we're competitive, we kind of get a few wins on the board, and we're kind of in contention until the last round of games. I think that would be a good performance.
Bill, what are your expectations?
Again, maybe this is naive of me, but I'm similar to Kevin. I even back in 2012 when I was in my early teens or whatever. I fully expected Ireland to come out of that group, and again that didn't come out to be very smart prediction. But I think the mentality with this Irish squad, and again I think this is what Kenny has instilled in the side, is we have to go into every single match and say, why can't we win? We should be competing and winning matches. And I'd be very disappointed if we weren't close on the top of the group by the final set of matches, because I think if you look at Scotland, the Ukraine, and Armenia, I think Ireland as a nation is on the up. I don't think we've seen how good Ireland will become yet, and with the players we have coming through, I feel that the next stage in this Irish side's progression is to go away and get out of the Nations League group. And I'd be a bit more optimistic at looking at beyond to see who will come out of the other groups to play us. So I don't know. Look, maybe I'm naive and maybe I'm looking at this too optimistically, but I fully expect this Irish side to win the group. Definitely.
Interesting.
Yeah, look, I suppose, can I just come in there? I suppose the one unknown, right, is how, obviously there's a lot going on for the Ukrainian players at the moment with the war situation, right? So maybe, Ukraine are, they're a good side, but who can say how they're going to, how the matches that they're going to play in are going to go in the upcoming games. So Scotland and Ukraine play each other in a World Cup qualifier just before the Nations League start, right? So there's a couple of things. One is Ukraine are obviously concerned with other things or other matters off the pitch, and coming out of that match, will one or the other of the teams be they'll have lost, they'll have missed out on the chance of the World Cup. Will that have a kind of knock-on effect on their performance when they get into the group? So there is the kind of an interesting angle that you wouldn't normally have coming into a group in terms of the two of the teams within the group are playing each other. And then there's also the conditions that Ukraine are having to play under. They won't play their games at home. They play them in neutral venues, and they've also got to worry about everything that's going on with the war. So I think that probably makes the group a bit more open than it may have perhaps otherwise been if you've had a Ukraine team fully focused purely on the football matters, and if there was no kind of World Cup qualifier between the two teams just in advance of the group starting. So it's a little bit of an unknown, and Ukraine are obviously at a disadvantage that they won't get to play home games. So who knows? Yeah. I mean, there's a chance there for Ireland, I would feel, to kind of push towards the top of the group. But I know from listening to your podcast recently, Aram, I think you guys are kind of focusing on the Irish game as being probably the most important one with us. So I suppose you see us as the team you're competing with in this group, as opposed to we're probably looking to fight it out for the top spot in the group. So it's an interesting angle in terms of the different viewpoints from the different teams.
Yeah, it is, and as you mentioned, I think both Ireland and Armenia benefit from that playoff. From that, just the haphazardous, happens to be that Ukraine and Scotland are playing each other, and it benefits us either way, because one of them has to win, and one of them is going to play another full 90 minutes in a playoff. So
or possibly 120.
Or possibly 120, and then going into 4 Nations League games back to back. I can see both of those teams dropping points to both of us. So I think it benefits both of us definitely dramatically. And to your second point about Ukraine's situation and playing during a war, this is I understand how you would draw that conclusion, but similarly, and of course the level is not as high as Ukraine, but Armenia was actually fighting a war during the last Nations League game, and we didn't get to play our games at home, and we actually topped our group and were promoted to League B. So it can also be a very big motivating factor.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's the thing. As I said, nobody can predict how that will affect them. It could be that, it affects them negatively, but like you say, Armenia was obviously a positive motivation for them, and they topped the group.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, Thank you so much for coming on here and telling us a little bit more about Irish football. Again, this was Bill from the Irish Football blog and a very recent new podcast. Go check them out. Drop them a follow on Twitter. And Gavin from a Nations League once again, focusing on the Nations League. So if you're interested in Irish football and you're interested in Ireland and the Nations League, please go check these guys out. They clearly have a humongous well of knowledge that they're drawing from. And I really appreciate you guys coming on our show. Thank you very much.
Great stuff. Thanks, Aaron. It was a lot of fun
Thanks,
and very interesting.
Great. Well, we'll see you guys in a few weeks, huh? June 4th, opening match in Yerevan. It's going to be a good one. We're very excited for it, or it's just going to go horribly. So we'll see.
Yeah, may the best team win, huh?
May the best team win. Thanks, gents. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you again, gentlemen, for coming on the show. Again, that was the Irish Football blog and a Nations League once again podcast. Please go follow them on Twitter at Blog Irish for Irish Football blog and at ANLOA Pod for a Nations League once again. It's really good insight onto the Irish national team and a team that has experienced some things very similar to Armenia recently, but in the opposite order. I mean, they had a terrible winless streak, and then they had a really good winning streak, and we had a really good winning streak followed by a terrible winless streak. So some interesting points brought up about the Nations League, about the shape that Ukraine and Scotland will be in coming into this tournament, because they do have a playoff against each other. So that means one of those two teams is going to be playing 2 full matches before the Nations League even starts. So yeah, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of good stuff and a lot on the line. And we will cover all of that here on Football Kentron, starting with when the Armenian National Team squad gets announced this week. So please stay tuned for that. Also, remember, we are doing that Twitter Spaces in French whenever the national team squad gets announced. And we also have a couple of other surprises up our sleeves. I believe, gentlemen, that is going to be it for Football Kentron. I don't know how much more you would want than like the hour and 30 minutes this is about to be.
Lol, we can all go on and on.
We can all go on and on, but I have only so much patience with editing. Thank you, gentlemen. Pleasure as always. Good to be back. Good to be talking. Shoot, man, Nations League's right around the corner, and we have a very
I don't know how to feel about that. I don't know how to feel about that. I guess I will know how to feel about that when the list is announced.
Exactly. That's gonna be the biggest biggest telltale sign.
I will mentalize and prepare my whole moods and how I'm gonna be functioning once I know that.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. Gentlemen.
Oh my God.
Ladies. Football Kentron faithful. Thank you for listening to our show. We will be back next week, wrapping up the squad and giving our analysis. That first look, that first thought, that first inkling that we are right on most of the time. So, we'll see you then.
Of course.
All right, everyone. Peace.
¿Qué te pasa la concha de tu-